The first time I realized there was something off with my memory, I was 16 years old and I had no memories at all. My friends used to joke and call me Spacey Stacy because I was very dissociated. They didn't know that. They just thought I was checked out sometimes. I did well in school, but I had no memory of my life. So that started a sense that there was something off, and didn't really get serious about trying to look at what that was until I was in college and I started having functional problems, drinking too much, blacking out, eating disorders. And then I realized I needed help. And so I saw my first therapist and I explained about my memory. And then she said, "That's a big deal. That's a red flag. That's a sign of trauma." And that was really helpful for me to put it in that context. I saw a therapist once who gave me a very helpful framework. He said, "You are a survivor of organized extreme abuse." And that was clear to me by that time. And that means for me, it's a group of perpetrators and it involves torture. That's how I define organized extreme abuse. Um, and he said, "You probably will never get back all of the memories of what happened to you, and you probably don't want to." I am a survivor of murder porn. I am a survivor of satanic ritual abuse. I am a survivor of trauma-based mind control, which involved military as well as occult practices. And those are broad categories. There's also a component for me of NASA involvement and things that sound very sci-fi, that I'm still processing and remembering. Um, and in each of those buckets, there's a list of atrocities that people can look up. In some ways, mine was unique. In some ways, it wasn't. It was structured dissociation, deliberately created parts to be used and exploited as a slave. When people call someone an asset, for example, from the CIA, which I was, that's another euphemism. Euphemism. I was a slave, not an asset. So I work a lot on healing myself so I can be of use to heal others. And that is my memory prayer, um, is just the holy divine help me to remember what I need to know to heal and help others heal. No more and no less. So there's two ways I think of me knowing that my memories are true. One is with forensic evidence, and that can include testimony. So that's very helpful, that kind of evidence. So one of the ways that I was abused is that I was trafficked. I was kidnapped and trafficked as a child. I was made to get into a white van. I was driven to a place that had a pornography film. So I was used in pornography as a child, and there were murders. So it was kill pornography, which is euphemistically called snuff porn, but that just makes it light. Um, and so I had memories coming back of these horrible things. But when I went to my family to talk with them about that, at first they said, no, like there's no, that didn't happen to you. We have no memory of that. We had no participation in that. And I remembered that it was an uncle of mine who was the perpetrator, a primary perpetrator. And so one day I was speaking with a sibling about this because I had so much rage coming up at this uncle. And at first, when I didn't have the memories back, I didn't know why I was so angry. And I was talking with her about that. And she said, Mom told me that this uncle kidnapped you. And I said, "What?" I mean, I had asked my mom and she said no. But she happened to tell my sibling that I was kidnapped by this uncle and that she couldn't prevent it. And then she said, but she wasn't gone very long and nothing bad happened to her. That denial kicked in because I think my mom just couldn't bear it. But that was the first kind of testimony, kind of around about testimony that I actually was kidnapped by this uncle. And that was a source of my rage because he abused me horribly. And Another form of corroborating evidence came also from a sibling when I started getting memories back of this white van. And I was told that we had a family friend who had a white van, just like exactly what I described. And then I was putting together that was him, like he was part of the organization. So those were really helpful ways of someone else reflecting things that helped to put things in place. Another way that I know my memories are true has to do with my day-to-day healing now. And what I do is if I have any kind of a memory come into my consciousness, whether it's through my body, through emotions, through things I think about, sometimes it's through art that I draw, um, I write it down. And I just write it down in as much detail as I can. And then I set it aside. I just give it some time. And then I go back a few days later and I read it again. I may read it to a therapist or a coach or a friend or someone that I trust. And then I see how my body feels when I read it. And that's a way to sort of have a conversation with my body about, is there an energetic charge there? Is it no big deal? Do I feel uncertain or certain? I see how the other person responds to me and we talk about it. And so that's an important part for me of coming into a sense of like a whole experience of what my memories are. And I have also videotaped myself reading these memories, and then I'll watch it back just to try to get um, uh, kind of a discerning mind about what's being said and how do I feel when I hear it.
And when you said the other person, how the other person feels, so you were talking about like a therapist or a friend?
Therapist, a friend, a coach, a spiritual advisor, just anyone that I trust. Because often when I read a memory that I've written, they will have a reaction. Because when it's dissociated, that means that I haven't fully processed it through my mind, heart, body, and spirit. So reassociation is hard to do by myself because it was overwhelming. That's why I dissociated in the first place. So when it's coming back, I need another person to help me co-regulate. And so often they'll say, I feel shock, I feel scared, I feel chills. They'll have some kind of reaction that if it were a daydream, I just don't think that charge would kind of be coming through the relationship. They might have a reaction to it, but it's not necessarily that they're helping to embody some of the parts and pieces, the dissociated components. So it's almost like digesting a meal together, if you will, but it's a very painful meal, a poison meal, but the digestion process where you release what you don't need and then you have the rest. I want to say that one of the most powerful ways that people can remember, I think, or for myself that I can remember, is by being around people who can tolerate what I am remembering. So when I was around my family and they couldn't bear the pain of what had happened to me, I didn't remember very much. When I got separated from them and went to college, the memories started coming back, but I couldn't bear what I was remembering. So I started drinking to black out and eating to numb out, etc. But I was also acting out the memories through my behavior. So another form of memories is actually acting out behavior. It's showing the memories that we can't tell. And so stopping the harmful acting out can bring up more memories. And so having people around us who have the ability to stay present, like you're staying with me and listen and be kind, makes a huge difference in whether we remember or not. Last year, I retired as a licensed psychotherapist and went to work as a coach so that I could support other people with their memory integration and healing. So it's very rewarding. And I know you know this as a way of healing to be of service to others.